is a magic number. Yes, it is. It's a magic number.
Hello and welcome everyone to a triple play podcast called 3 is a Magic Number. My name is Britton, Allan, and I call it that because every day I look through all the lineups from all the Major League Baseball teams to see which players are shooting up the lineups because if they're on a hot streak, the managers will place them 1, 2, or 3 to maximize plate appearances, and that's fantasy players. That's what we want with our hitters. We want plate appearances. And some teams, unfortunately, don't have Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, or Freddie Freeman that are automatic 1, 2, 3s. They kind of got to take what they can get and find players on their teams that are on hot streaks and get heaters so that they can maximize and that player's ability while they can. That's why I do it every week, because literally it changes every week. That's the beauty of baseball, is every day is a different game. Things change, injuries. So I try to see who's under the radar that's kind of hot. But before I get to all that, and I've got 3 players to talk about that I'm really excited about. I have a very special guest host today. I'm very excited. This is a man who writes for Pitcher List, and every week, go read his article called Fab Insights. Now that's Fab, F-A-A-B, as in free agent acquisition budget. That doesn't roll off the tongue, but it's very important because especially in NFBC leagues, you have to make those fab bids. That's the difference between winning and losing your league. And I read his recent article, and it said the first line, "Welcome back to another fabulous Sunday." F-A-A-B-ulous Sunday. I mean, Billy Shakespeare is jealous of that type of wordsmith going on in these articles. It's a great article. It comes out every Sunday. Please check it out at Pitcher List. But there's more. This is a man who is co-hosting a podcast that also comes out Sunday, which I always look forward to. It's called On the Wire with his co-host, Adam Howe, where they get into like the details and the strategy of fab bids and players and everything you need to know. It's a great podcast. I love it. I listen to it. I look forward to it every single week. Please go check it out. It's called On the Wire. It's on the Pitcher List network. But there's more. You're probably, well, not really, because I don't think there are a lot of haters out there, but there may be some people thinking, all right, so anybody can just write a great article. Lots of people can have a podcast, but I mean, Billy Shakespeare was a good writer, but does that mean he was good at fantasy baseball? Well, Billy Shakespeare never won the Stratford-on-Avon Baseball Invitational? I say. Because this gentleman won, as in numero uno, the number one. There is only one champion, Highlander style, of the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational run by Justin Mason in 2020. What that means is he beat everybody that entered into that competition. And this isn't, Joe Blow from your office. These are the men and the women that have all the algorithms and the computers and all the data and the stuff. And this gentleman blew them all out of the water to win number 1 overall. So he's very good at fantasy baseball. That was a long introduction, but I had to put it all in there because I'm so excited to introduce Mr. Kevin Hasting. Thank you, Kevin, for being here today.
No, thank you for having me, Britton. If I ever need a publicist, you're hired, man. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Maybe overdo it a little bit, but I can't help it. I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. It's an honor to have you here because I love listening to your podcast and reading your work. And so, and also following you on Twitter. So please follow Kevin Hasting on Twitter at Hasting, Hasting, Kevin, Kevin. And what's weird is I was following you on Twitter and I was double checking because I was like, I think it's Kevin Hastings. Do you get that a lot? Like, Yeah, I feel like I need to add it.
Absolutely.
Like, why do I feel the need to add an S to your name? I have no idea, but I'm probably not the only one.
Oh, no, not at all. Much more commonly heard that way with the S on the end. In fact, in high school, there was an S on the end on the back of my football jersey. So it's happened all my life. Maybe not quite as much these days, but yeah, I don't even hear it anymore when it's said that way. It's all good. But yeah, when you are looking for something in writing, yeah, you have to leave the S off or you won't find it.
And I can relate because my first name is Britton and my last name is Allan. And for all my school age years, it would all, at least one class, it would be reversed on the roll
Yeah.
sheet. And it would be Allan or Britton Allan. And like people would refuse to take my word for it that my last name was in fact Allan and my first name was in fact Britton. It was kind of a running joke for when I was growing up because it always happened. Like people would always reverse it. So, but I wanted to ask you too. I was looking at your Twitter bio, and it appears that you are a Kansas City Royals fan. So I had some hard hitting questions to ask you about Kansas City, if you don't mind, real quick.
Not at all. Love talking Royals.
Did you actually live in Kansas City?
I did not. I grew up a couple hours away near Omaha, Nebraska. Saw a
Okay.
lot of AAA at the time. The Royals, now they're the Storm Chasers, but still the Royals AAA affiliate. Have been for many, many years, decades, in fact. And so grew up seeing the AAA teams. And then in high school, as soon as we got driver's licenses, we started making our way to Kansas City a couple times each summer.
I've always wanted to go. One of my dreams, and I don't know if it'll ever come true, maybe when I retire, is to visit as many ballparks as I can. And Kansas City is one at the top of my list because obviously you've got the fountains. It's Kauffman Stadium, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a beautiful stadium. I haven't been to nearly all of the major league ballparks, but I have been to several. It is one of my favorites, although I can be biased, of course. But you better hurry. There's talk of a downtown stadium coming in the next few years. And part of the appeal of Kauffman, in my mind, is being out on the outskirts next door to Arrowhead. Joint parking lots going all the way around the two stadiums is part of the great atmosphere there.
That's awesome.
So, yep, yeah, you better hurry.
I will definitely put that to the top of my. I think my list is like this. It's like Pittsburgh is number one. I've always wanted to go to PNC Park, and then Kansas City Kauffman Stadium is number two. But my hard hitting question. See, for many years I lived in Memphis, and so I became addicted to Memphis barbecue. And in Memphis, it's mainly pork ribs, dry rub. Now, as a Kansas City fan, and what is the Kansas City barbecue place that I have to go to when I finally make my dream come true and go visit Kauffman Stadium?
Oh, there's so many, and they all have a different appeal. In my opinion, of the more restaurant style places, I love Joe's. And it's kind of a more of a local go in, get your, whatever you'd like. Joe's is great and one of the most well known. And Jack Stack is my favorite of more of the upscale places. I just love their burnt ends. So that's kind of what sets Kansas City apart for me, is the burnt ends.
Yes.
So Jack Stack is the place.
Jack Stack, give me all the burnt ends.
Yes.
Like I want to walk to Jack Stack and they'll be like, "Sir, may I take your order?" And I'm going to be like, "Yeah, I'm going to take all the burnt ends." And like, "Just so you want an order of burnt ends?" I'm like, "No. I want all the burnt ends. I want someone to go into the back and open up all the barbecue pit. I like everything, and put all the burnt ends, in a bag, and I'm taking them with me. That's what I want. So I will definitely do that. hopefully sooner than later, one of these days, I live in Nashville. I don't know if that's if that's how long a drive that is, but I imagine it's pretty out there. So I might have to book a flight here at some point. But today I was going to ask you, I don't know if you've covered this in your podcast. I actually listened to it a couple of times, so I hope I'm not retreading some ground here. But I know one of the hot guys is on everybody's radar, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention him because I think he is like literally a must-add player in any roto league. Is Jonathan VR, and we all know Jonathan VR. He's been around for a while. I bet he's been on every at least at some point in the past 5-6 years on everybody's team. But Kevin, he's back.
He is, and hitting leadoff, which is what we want to see. 3 games now since he's joined the Angels, hitting leadoff, and then now last night, got on base a couple of times, stole a base, scored a couple of runs. This is what we expect to see out of him, what we're hoping for. And he was dropped in a lot of places when he was DFA'd by the Cubs, as he was in the starting lineup for the game and DFA'd.
Unceremoniously.
Yeah, just crazy.
Would say, yeah.
A pretty nice landing spot. I think he's going to get the playing time. The Angels have had a lot of injuries and shuffled a lot of guys in and out at the infield positions throughout the entire season. So as long as he continues to get on base, he's going to stay at the top of that lineup. And we know he can steal bases and hopefully score some runs for us as well.
You nailed it, I think, is the key. Is stolen bases. Jonathan VR is going to steal bases. It's like in his nature. I looked up his Fangraphs page. Did you know? And of course, I vaguely remember this, but in 2016, he stole 62 bases for the Milwaukee Brewers. 62 bases.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even more recently in Baltimore in 2019, when they let him hit leadoff all season long, got over 700 plate appearances and took off and swiped 40. So he's done it even more recently and already turned him loose in his 3rd game last night for the Angels.
Heck yeah. And, the Angels have got to mix it up. They got to make something happen out there on the base paths. They got Ohtani and Trout, obviously, and Tyler Ward's having a great year. But Anthony Rendon is done. He's not coming back this year. And they just DFA'd Taylor Wade. So the playing time is there for Jonathan VR. And even if you're like, top of your 12 team or whatever your team league is, like, up there at top of the stolen bases, I think you still have to go get him to keep him off everybody else's roster. So you keep your points. You don't want this guy off the waiver wire giving 30 stolen bases to one of your league mates. I think I think you got to get him. Yeah.
And also in 12 team leagues, that's a great point. And also, he's got multi-positional eligibility, which really helps, especially in NFBC formats where we are allowed to change our hitting lineups on Friday before the weekend game starts. Having a guy like that as a backup on your bench, even if your initial goal was, as you say, keep him from your opponents, then you have him for the weekend if something happens with some of your other players Monday through Thursday.
That's a great point too. And on Fantrax, I looked it up. He's only like 35% rostered, like not started, rostered. And he just got signed by the Angels July the 2nd, which was about 5 days ago. Today's Thursday the 7th. So maybe, in your leagues, it's, people are July 4th, because I love the July 4th. But man, when you come back to work on July the 5th, you're like, oh man, I gotta call this person, I gotta write this report, I gotta do whatever. So maybe that VR signing kind of slid under the radar a little bit. So I would rush right out and go check your wire, and if he's there, you just grab him and don't worry about it, because now you may have a stolen base guy on your bench. You can stick him at corner. He's second base eligible and shortstop. You can stick him in middle, or you can just keep him away from your other leagues. So, it's Jonathan VR too, man. He's one of those guys that's kind of been around a while, and kind of like back in the day. I don't know if you play fantasy football, but like Tony Gonzalez was a really valuable tight end, but he played so long, people just kind of forgot about him and got tired of it. But VR is back, and he's leading off, and he's going to play. So go out there.
Yeah, and it's like you said, he's been around forever. It seems like still just 31 years old,
Right.
and that's getting up there for guys that we're counting on for speed, but it's probably quite a bit younger than most people realize.
Oh yeah, totally. And like you said too, I mean, he's been doing it for a while. And in my experience, cheetahs don't change their spots. He's programmed his mindset as I'm going to steal bases and I'm going to make it happen. So I love Jonathan VR. So another guy I wanted to ask you about is one of my favorite players, who is not talked about, not rostered either, but he's been hitting third in his lineup, which is Seth Brown, first baseman, outfielder for the Oakland A's. He's been having a surprisingly good year, and so he hits third against righties. He's a lefty bat, so there is a platoon issue. But here's the thing about him, and I hope I'm not sounding like a broken record slamming these stolen bases, but it's so important because they're so rare. He's stolen 7 bases this year. Like, I was like, that's unheard of. Other than Goldschmidt, that's unheard of from a first baseman. What do you think about Seth Brown?
Yeah, I love Seth Brown. He was one guy that I got in a lot of my draft and hold leagues during the off season because you could get him so late. Of course, we know that he does have some moderate power, and he's on pace for 20 home runs for the season. We would expect that out of him. But as you said, just a few weeks ago, I brought it up on the wire when we talk about some of our wire targets by category, and I brought up Seth Brown in the speed category, and my co-host Adam Howe was like, do you have him in the right spot here? And I'm like, yeah, take a look. And Adam does such a great job at tracking stolen base opportunities and how often players attempt stolen bases when they have the opportunity to. And he pulled it up real quick, and he's like, oh, when he has a chance to steal, he's taking that opportunity and making the attempt. The other great thing in these 7 stolen bases, he hasn't been caught. So when
That's
the
so
opportunity arises, that they're going to turn him loose.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and what I love too about stolen bases is obviously I love stolen bases, but also that's an effort. That's something that the player has said to himself in the offseason, I'm going to be more aggressive. And it's not only just the base pass, that's a mindset that, and not to get too philosophical because it's not like I know Seth Brown, but it appears to me like that's a mindset that this particular player is saying, I'm going to go out there every single day and I'm going to steal bases. I'm going to hit. I'm going to get on base, and I'm going for it. And I'm going to get my WAR up, because when it's arbitration time, what do they look at? They will look at WAR, and that 100% directly affects the amount of money that you make. And I know and I love baseball, but these guys are playing for money, and I'm sure they love the game too. But at the end of the day, they're out there hustling and doing their best to help their team win, and also makes a boatload of money, which they deserve because it is a hard game to play. So I did look at this though, Kevin. I wanted to see what you thought. He does sit against lefties. Now, in the past 3 lefties, he sat twice. His OPS against lefties is 454, which is BAD.
Yeah.
There's no other way. You can't sugarcoat a 454 OPS. So I think if you pick up Seth Brown, it's got to be a daily league. I don't think, if it's an NFBC league, where rosters are set, and like I play the draft and hold NFBC style. I love the 50-round draft and hold draft champions leagues. So, you actually have to like look and see how many righties or lefties are coming up on the Oakland schedule. But, and then you can always switch them out, like you said, on the Fridays if you need to. But he's best suited for a daily league where, you can kind of just look at it that day and have it like that. But you're just not going to get 7 stolen bases out of that corner infield spot. And I think he's also outfield eligible too if you have a roster crunch and you need to put him in there. But he's going to bat third against righties, and there are a lot more righties than lefties. So I thought he would be a good guy to take a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about Seth Brown in this, day and age of so many teams playing these matchups with players, especially guys like Seth Brown that can play first base, can play in the outfield. They're going to be shuffled in and out. Being on the strong side of the platoon helps. Also, he hasn't been, at least, being pinch hit for as the game progresses. So if there is a left-handed reliever, they leave him in there. You mentioned the OPS against lefties. That's not going to be great. But most of these teams only have a couple of lefties in their bullpen. So he's been left in the games to finish them out. And then he will hopefully get another plate appearance against a righty. Also, on the flip side, he is used as a pinch hitter in the games that he does not start versus a lefty when a right-handed reliever comes in. So he's going to get more plate appearances than most straight platoon guys.
Hello?
Hey, there you are.
Oh no. There was a break there. I apologize for that, Kevin.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, it looks like the internet had a little snafu. I apologize for those watching and those listening. Not exactly sure what happened, but it looks like it's back on track now. So I guess we'll just keep on going. But during the little interruption there, I had another question that I wanted to ask you that is Kansas City related. Are you ready for a quick Kansas City trivia question?
Of course.
All right, it's a multiple choice. It's either A or B. So the question is, who is weirder? Okay, two answers: A, Zach Greinke, or B, everyone else on planet Earth.
I love Zach Greinke,
I know, he's awesome.
And It's great, and I'm really happy to see that so many people embrace his quirkiness these days, because we know that he has anxiety issues and that. So and it wasn't very long ago when he got a hard time about it more often than people embracing it and saying we love it, like you brought up now.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say weird. Like I have two. I have a daughter that's 9 and another daughter that's 5, and I try to be a little bit better about choosing my words more carefully. He's not weird. There's nothing weird about him. He's odd. He's or maybe that's even negative too, but he's unique, and I love it because he's so interesting. He was given a interview that I was watching, and someone asked him about, he's had a long, really successful career. And the interviewer said, what are you most proud of or something? And he talked about his stolen bases. He said, I've got 7 stolen bases and all I care about is getting the 10. But
Yeah.
I think he was kind of mad that now there's universal DH. So he was like, I don't think I'm going to get to 10. That's what he cares
back
about.
during the times when he was up for trade or up as a free agent, he was adamant about going to the National League so he could hit back at the time. And yeah, unfortunately, he probably won't see the opportunity for those 3 more stolen bases. I'm really interested in seeing what happens with him here over the next 3 or 4 weeks. There is some talk that he prior to his last start, Houston hammered him pretty good a couple days ago, but he had pitched well since he came back from injury, and there's talk about him being moved. I don't see it happening. I would guess there was some at least talk, if it's not in writing, when Kansas City brought him back, that this is where he's going to end his career.
Yeah.
And I hope that is the case.
Right. And if they don't trade him, hopefully towards the end of the year, the man, if they're out of playoff contention and they got 7 games left on their schedule, maybe they'll pinch run Greinke for a runner with nobody on second, give him a couple chances to make his dream come true. He certainly deserves. I remember years ago back in some heavier gambling days of mine, I would always look at Greinke starts like back in Milwaukee and stuff like that, and I'd take the under. That's my lasting impression of Zach Greinke. Every time I saw his start, I would always bet on the under because I knew he suppressed runs like nobody's business. That's been his whole career. He's always done it. But last but not least, I have a player here who I call the Champagne Supernova, like the Oasis song. My man Yerman Mercedes. Do you remember Yerman Mercedes?
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Heck yeah, he came out of the gate. Was it last year or the year before for the Chicago White Sox? And literally, I say supernova because that's how big he exploded. I say champagne because now he's dousing himself with some Corbel or I don't know what champagne, Dom Perignon, I don't know. So he's dousing him. So he's a supernova dousing himself with that champagne. Oasis is writing songs about him, but now he's exploded back on the scene with the San Francisco Giants. And he bat third yesterday, and it was against a righty. So maybe he's not in a short side platoon after all. Have you looked at Yerman Mercedes?
Yeah, and we know the Giants, next to Tampa, probably most well known for moving guys around and playing the matchups. So it is a little surprising that he has played these 3 games in a row, and from both sides, both handedness of pitchers. But nice to see. I think that the thing I remember most about when Mercedes came on the scene, and you brought it up, was it 2020, 2021? Well, it was 2021, but he did get 1 plate appearance in 2020, which meant in 2021, when he came up, we had to wait for him to get positional eligibility at other than utility, because that 1 plate appearance in 2020 meant we didn't just automatically get his minor league most position played eligibility.
Exactly.
So that was a little quirk with him coming up in 2021 when he broke on the scene.
Yeah, I remember I was rooting for him because I know during that season he got sent down and he had some problems with that, but it looks like or hopefully he's bounced back and he's going to play for San Francisco Giants. So I would definitely I love players like this. Like I was at players that start off hot on a career. And just it's like I was watching the MLB. Like Dan Plesac said this, and I thought that was so true. He said there are two kinds of players in Major League Baseball, and the guy next to him goes, "Only two?" He goes, "Yeah, two." He goes, "Players that have been humbled by this game, and players that are about to be." And so it happens. And I thought that was really true. So Yerman has gone through it, and now he's back batting third for the San Francisco Giants. So I'm rooting for him, and I hope he's successful because
I think we all are. I mean, did you see the YouTube video of him, his reaction when he got the call to San Francisco?
I mean,
it's like he's 29 years old and he looked like he was 9 years old. It's amazing. Love it.
I love it too. Pure joy. And that's the beauty. That's one of the things I love about baseball because, 1 minute you're down and out. You're feeling like, it's not going to happen for you. You're in AAA or whatever. And then the next minute, a team takes a chance on you and you're batting third in a Major League Baseball game. And, I think that's great, but that's baseball, man. Things turn in a dime and Yerman Mercedes has had success at the Major League level. And so he's one of those guys to keep an eye on because if he gets hot, that's why I do this podcast basically because I like the guy because you get that hot streak and you want to grab him and ride those plate appearances to get those counting stats and hopefully Yerman will about to go on that ride. I think he certainly deserves it. But so those were the three players I wanted to talk to you about. Thank you so much, Kevin, for being here. It was Seth Brown, first baseman for the Oakland Athletics. Yerman Mercedes, who I believe is just a DH now. So he probably is only util at this point, or maybe third base. Oh, that's another thing too, Kevin, I want to ask you about. It looks like he got called up because Pharaoh, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Pharaoh Estrada got sent sent to the IL because of it wasn't a injury, it was a COVID related illness. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the thing with these COVID IL spots is they're kind of open ended. We have no idea when he'll be back. They don't disclose whether they actually tested positive or whether it was just a protocol with contact tracing. So we have no idea when Estrada will be back, and that makes it difficult for us setting our lineups. And what I have finally realized is that I don't take any of the speculation into account anymore. They're on the IL until I see them play.
Yeah, I think that is a great point because obviously COVID affects everybody differently. He could be out, hopefully, not too long. Hopefully he's getting better. But in the meantime, Yerman Mercedes has an opportunity batting third. So, keep an eye on him or go out and stash him on your bench and see what happens. And then please tune in next week to see who else is getting hot, hitting high up in the lineup. Hopefully we're talking about Yerman Mercedes again, but we'll see. I want to say thank you so much. I've taken way too much of your time, Kevin, but thank you for being here and giving me some of your insights. I really appreciate it. And please follow Kevin at Twitter at Hasting, Hasting, no S. And Kevin, and also go check out On the Wire. It's a Pitcher List podcast. It's awesome. You're going to love it. And also the Pitcher List website. I'm a subscriber, actually. I love it. Kevin, they've redone the whole look. It's slick. It's neat. I love going to read the articles at Pitcher List.
Yeah, the articles are great. The player pages are great. It was hard for me, even though I'm at Pitcher List. It's hard to change our habits. And my habit when I want to see a player is Fangraphs, and it still is. But I
Sure.
have been going to the Pitcher List player pages more and more. And one of the main reasons is hard contact percentage is part of the pages, part of the leaderboard now, and something that I have come to look at more often than hard hit percentage, looking at hard contact plate appearance rather than batted ball event. And Pitcher List is a really easy spot to find that.
Man, if you love fantasy baseball, and you have to if you're listening to this, but if you love fantasy baseball, Pitcher List has all the information. And I love Fangraphs too, but a lot of it is it's so analytical. Sometimes you kind of get lost in the minutia of it, where I think Pitcher List kind of takes the analytics and puts it into picture. Puts
Right.
it into here's what to do with this information, instead of and nothing against Fangraphs are great, but instead of just saying like, here are a bunch of numbers, because I'm not a numbers guy, at all. I was like, I've never met an Excel sheet that I could be friends with. So I have to have it kind of, interpreted for me. And that's what Pitcher List does. But it's a great website. Please go check it out. Kevin, once again, not to beat a dead horse, but I can't thank you enough for being here. It was fun, and I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am always up for talking baseball and talking fantasy baseball. It's my favorite thing to do.
Well, go enjoy your Hawaiian day. I assume there may be some surfing involved, probably some delicious sushi. I don't know what goes on in Hawaii. I wish I did. But thanks again, and I'll talk to you later. And everyone, hopefully I'll see you next week. Everybody have a good day and take it easy.